Welcome, Angela Randazzo.
Thank you.
Uh, Angela is a published playwright, novelist, and as you could tell from the flyer, illustrator. She illustrated this flyer. She's also been a member of the Writers Guild, so worked for the entertainment industry. She was a feature writer for Los Angeles Daily News. Her novels, adventure series, and picture books appear on randomhorsepublishing.com. So, Angela, welcome
Thank
to the
you.
PubClub.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. And yes, I've done a lot of writing throughout my time and in different formats. But I started as a playwright way back when. And when I was 19 years old, I went from my small town of Silver Creek, which is in New York State, to the big city of New York City to follow my dream to become an actress. And, I kind of started my writing career there in earnest, writing plays. So I put together this PowerPoint presentation with some of the things that I've learned about writing through the years. And I'm sure you know much of this, but I just thought I'd mention some things and hopefully it will help you in some way. If not, that's okay too. I hope that's entertaining at least. So I'm calling this Dreaming Out Loud because that's actually the name of this font that you see here, which is very playful. But I think as writers, that's what we are. We're dreaming out loud and we're writing what we dream down on paper or on our computer. So these are some of the points that I wanted to go over today. I don't know how many we'll get to.
Angela, this
Yes.
is Sunshine. If you click on your slideshow up above, I think you'll get the full screen. And then you just click on enter to go slide by slide.
Okay. This is not a slideshow presentation video. I have to go slide by slide.
I know, that's what it'll do. If you click on slideshow, it'll go slide by slide when you press the enter key.
Did you not get the second screen?
Yeah, we got it.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm manually doing this. So thank you, Sunshine. But I'll just manually do this here because I don't know how long I'm going to be on each slide.
Yeah, you control it by pressing the space bar or the enter key. That's how
Yes.
you move from slide to slide.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so some of the things the points of writing that I'd like to go over, and like I said, this might be something you know, but it's just something that I've discovered in my writing. The setting, the importance of a setting, and telling your story, the call to adventure, history is your friend, and happy ending. So let's go to setting. So I found in the work that I've done, I've written about 20 adult novels, about 30 illustrated children's books, and then I have a small series of state books. So I found in my adult novels that the setting is very important, and you can really find some gems in any setting you're using for your story. I started as a playwright, and the first play that I wrote, I was very fortunate to have published by the Dramatic Publishing Company. I was living in New York City at the time in a building called the Ansonia. I was following my dream to be an actress.
How nice.
And the building, you probably have seen, if you saw the movie The Sunshine Boys, it was filmed in that building. It's an historic building, and back in the day, it used to be a residence for opera singers. Like Crusoe lived there, and Stravinsky, and all these people that were in the arts back in the 1800s. And as time went on, the big suites got cut up into smaller ones, and I had a studio apartment there. In the lobby was a really gem of a theater. And if you're a playwright, you're always looking for a theater. So we performed my play, Bats in the Belfry, there. So this is the first review that I got of this Bats in the Belfry. And I don't know if you can you see it?
Yes.
Oh, so I just wanted to tell you what it's about. This was the review that was in Backstage, and maybe I should have stopped while I was ahead because it's a good review. And this play is about four little old ladies, music teachers, who turn out to be witches. And then there's their imaginary companion, Mr. Ogilvy, who materializes into a warlock. An ingenue who turns into a cat, and her fiance, who has the makings of a junior warlock. So there's a lot of fun in the play and a lot of imaginary things that the audience has is not on stage, but they have to imagine are there. It's kind of like a Harvey, that kind of feel, or Lace. So we performed it in this theater. And then later on, getting back to setting, I decided to write the book, the play, into a series for children, a youth series. And this is the series. It's called Bats in the Belfry series, and there's 4 different books. It's an adventure series, a fantasy series, because I love witches and wizards and dragons and things like that. And I used my hometown as the setting. And that's why I'm telling you how important settings are, because you remember things from that setting that you lived in, maybe that town, maybe that place where you went on vacation, that you don't have to make it all up in your imagination. You can use those real places and where you went or as a child. So this was the park in Silver Creek. It's called Silver Creek. It's right on Lake Erie, a small town, 3,000 people when I lived there. And that's the Presbyterian church, a steepled clapboard church. How perfect is that? And this fountain in the middle of the town square. There were only 2 streets across, Main Street and Central Avenue. And then over here on the right, you can't see it in this picture, was the Geithner Theater, where all us kids went on Saturday afternoons and watched those crazy movies back then, a lot of sci-fi movies. So in my story, the Bats in the Belfry series, I use that setting. The premise is these 4 little old ladies live in Brooklyn, and they have a trunk in the attic, which is a portal to the magical world of Razzmatazz. And when Mr. Ogilvy, the evil warlock, materializes because of all these things that happen, he kidnaps Pamela, who's the ingenue, and takes her into this magical world. And the 4 little old ladies and Oliver, the boy hero, follow them. And then they're in the magical world. So I turned Silver Creek into Silver Cricket. And so this is how I imagine it. And you can see this is a postcard back in the 40s. And yet it's such a kind of fanciful showing of that same park with the fountain with the colored lights. And here's the Geithner Theater over on the right in the church. So since I knew the setting so well, I didn't really have to make up anything. It's in my imagination of where we were, and that really helped me. And I could use all the things that I love from my town growing up there in the book. So I wanted to show you this video I made about Bats in the Belfry. So I'm not trying to promote my books. I just wanted to use them to discuss some of the things that I've learned as a writer. So I'm suggesting for your own work that you really look into a setting, a locale, and even do a history, learn about that setting, because all those little gems are there and you can use them in your books. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay. All right, I'll just carry along here. So telling your story, your own story. As you look back on your life, I'm sure there's some events that have happened to you that are of great interest, maybe just little things or people you've known. And as writers, we can always draw on those people and base our characters on them or that incident. And maybe you've done that in some of your books. I did in this book. It's called The Crushed Heart. And it's a romance, but it's kind of a strange romance because as I deal in fantasy, there's always some sort of supernatural element in it. And so that's true with this book too. This was based on something that happened to me that I had really forgotten about, but it was drawn to my attention. I'm also a docent at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library Museum, and it's here in Simi Valley. And before the COVID thing, probably 2019, the curator came into our docent room. We have a meeting before we go out on the floor. And he said that Ken Burns was making a video on Vietnam, the Vietnam War. And he wanted to know if there was any docents who was involved in that, because most of the docents are, over 60. So a few of the men raised their hand, and I raised my hand as well, because this incident just, I recalled it, and it was Vietnam related, how I saved the life of a soldier in the Vietnam War. Yes, it's true, in a very odd way. So what happened was, I told the story to the docents, and I'll just briefly repeat it to you. When I was in my 20s living in Silver Creek, there was a place where the kids would go called Sunset Bay. And there was a big pavilion there where if you were over 18, you could buy beer. There was also an arcade and a small little carnival for rides. And in this pavilion one night, I met this young man, and I don't remember his name, but I remember he said he was from a town called Sloan, and Sloan is near Buffalo. That was like 30 miles away from Silver Creek. And I think we had a nice evening there. Maybe we danced, maybe we walked on the beach. And in that pavilion, there were different machines where you could put in a coin, like one was the fortune teller and get your fortune. And another was you could have your name engraved on a heart. So he put the coin in, and he had my name engraved on this little heart, little gray thing, not too big, metal, just cheap little trinket. And for some reason, he didn't give it to me. He kept it, or maybe I gave it to him as a keepsake. So then we said goodbye, and I did give him my phone number, and I thought he might call me. He was nice. I liked him. I would have gone out on a date with him. So I didn't hear from him for a long time, and I forgot all about him because when you're young, you meet a lot of boys. So maybe a few months later, I get a call from him, and he tells me that he got drafted and he's going to Vietnam. So I'm sure I said all the proper things. I'm sorry, be careful. And I think he asked if he could write to me, but I really don't remember. And really, that was that. So I think he did send me one letter that I replied to. More time moved on, and I had my plans to go to New York City. And then maybe a year went by, and I got a call from him. And he said, "Can I see you?" And I was really surprised. I said, "Well, okay, sure." So I remember him driving up to my house and parking in front of the house. I remember going out to meet him and getting in his car. It was immaculately clean. He was sitting behind the wheel. And he says, "I want to show you something." And he held in his hand this metal object. And I said, "What's that?" He said, "This is the heart with your name on it." And it was crushed like a cupcake wrapper, kind of crushed like that. And I said, "How did it get like that?" He said he was in Vietnam, and he put the heart on his dog tags. And he was in a firefight, and a bullet hit the heart and saved his life. Yeah, and he said, he vowed right then, if he survived the war, that he would come back and tell me. And that's what he did. So I thought, wow, you know, that's extraordinary. He kept the heart. He said goodbye. I got out of the car and he drove away. And that was it. I never saw him again. So I'm telling the story. My docent friends afterwards said, you know, that's a pretty good story. Why don't you write it about it? And they knew I was a writer, and I thought about it, and I thought, well, what's the story? It's got to be more than that. And so I came up with a story, and this is the story. And I wanted to show you the video. So as writers, what I'm trying to convey to you is to, you know, those little gems, those little things that happen in your life, they could be right there for you to tell a story about. And maybe you have to do some fiction around it, like I did with this book. But if the nugget is there, you know, that's a good inspiration for you to write. So this is a video I did on the crushed heart. Okay. So, like I told you, I'm a docent at the Presidential Library, and I'm always looking for things to write about. Perhaps you are too. And in the museum, there's an Oval Office. It's the exact size and dimension of the real Oval Office in Washington, D.C. And in there is the very replica of a very famous desk called the Resolute desk. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's made from the timbers of a British sailing ship that sailed in the 1800s called the HMS Resolute. And it has a wonderful history going all the way back to 1850 and a British expedition into the Arctic. They were looking for the Northwest Passage. Well, to me, I got to thinking, well, if it's made from a ship, maybe it's a ghost ship. And so it just set me off that I thought, well, what if that was the real desk at the Reagan Library, not a replica, because of something that happened in history. And there was some kind of switch, and that desk is the real desk. And because it was made from the timbers of a ghost ship, the desk is haunted. And these ghosts are creating some kind of havoc within the museum. because I love the movie Night at the Museum. I mean, there was so much there that you could use in a museum to build a story on. And that one, it has T-Rexes and Teddy Roosevelt. In the Reagan, there is not that kind of thing there, but there was this desk. So that's what I built this story on. It's an action thriller. And so again, as writers, you know, just to look around and to think of, you know, settings around you where you go. Maybe you're a volunteer somewhere, or just even in this group here. Is there a story there? Can I use different things here to create a story? In the companion book to this, there was an exhibition in the museum about Leonardo da Vinci and his devices that he sketched in his journals. None of those devices were really ever built during his lifetime. They're really fanciful, fantastic things. But in modern times, some people and some promoters have taken upon themselves to build exhibitions using those sketches to build, you know, three-dimensional machines that he sketched out. And one of those machines was a time machine. That's what it's called. That's what Leonardo called it, Tempus Machina. And no one knows what it was for. To me, it's a time machine. So that's what I used as a premise for this book. You know, that Leonardo could use a time machine. He could come to our present time. And so that's the premise of that book. So certainly there's a lot of things around us that, you know, that's fodder for everything we're writing. So this is a video that I put together, and I use these videos as promotion for my books on my LinkedIn page where Scott found me, and also on YouTube. Just, you know, and just showing it, and I love creating these videos. They're so much fun. And if you do that too for your books, and if you're not, you know, tech savvy as far as how to do PowerPoint and things, I'd be glad to give you some pointers or show you the way if you have a PowerPoint program. So this is this is the video on this. So you may or may not know that a lot of the videos, I don't do the videos. Those are stock videos. And you can get them from Microsoft, from the Word program in PowerPoint. So, and you can insert them into this program, so that is so cool, and they're free. So there's a lot you can do that you don't have to pay for. So moving right along here about writing, the call to adventure. And this is my favorite part of any novel. And as you know, if you've written novels yourself, your characters always start out in the normal circumstances of where that character is. It could be, you know, a teacher living in a small New England town. It could be a hobbit living in the Shire in Middle Earth. Could be a Martian living on Jupiter. And then the call to adventure happens. Something happens that changes the character's life, that the character has to address and go on a quest. I mean, it could be something quite simple. Say the teacher gets a phone call that her sister was in a car crash and that she was killed, and the children have no mother now and nowhere to go. And so the teacher has to upend her entire life to take care of these children. Well, there's your story, how she copes with that. That's kind of a realistic call to adventure. In Lord of the Rings, of course, it's Frodo finding the ring, which sets him out on the great quest. For the Martian, maybe his spaceship doesn't work and he can't get off the planet and he has to figure out a way to do it. So, but it's the call to adventure that always sets the story off and takes your character into that adventure. Alfred Hitchcock called that call to adventure the MacGuffin, because it really didn't matter what it was. It wasn't about the call or the thing, really. It was about the quest. That's your story. So the MacGuffin could be anything, as long as it sets your character off on the adventure, which is the meat of your book. In this book I wrote, this is Killer of Hearts, and it takes place on a Arizona Native American reservation of the Apache Indians in the present. It's contemporary, and it's told from this little guy's point of view. His name is Coyote, and the Apaches use Coyote as kind of a storyteller. So sitting around the campfire, they would tell stories of Coyote, and Coyote always messed up. He always did something stupid. So it was kind of telling the children, don't do what Coyote does, do something else. So he's kind of a Wile E. Coyote type. And it was fun telling the story from his point of view because he doesn't get humans. And in the story, the call to adventure is these murders that are taking place on the reservation. And the tribal policeman has to hunt down the killer, and Coyote kind of helps him. So that was a fun book to do. In this book, this is a series about a gay vampire who faints at the sight of blood. His name is Larkspur. And his call to adventure is very black and white, because he starts out as a gigolo in Paris, and his call is meeting this gorgeous count who happens to be a vampire, and then the count bites him, and because Larkspur was smitten and then bitten, and that's his call to adventure. That changes his life forever, and then he's on the quest and you know, against this evil count that he has to track down. So those are some of the things that I've been dealing with and working with my books. And history is your friend. There's so much in history that you can use for your books. And I love to do research. Maybe you do too. I hope so, because you learn so much. There's so much that, you know, I didn't know about William Shakespeare when I wrote this series of books called Wicked Will. The premise was, the idea came to me, well, what would Will Shakespeare be like as a child, as a boy? And because he was a writer and a poet, maybe one would think he's just this milquetoast little boy who moaned and groaned a lot. But I didn't think so. I thought he would be feisty, and he would fight bullies, and he would stand up for himself. And so that's the kind of character I created in this adventure that has an overarching theme of the Tempest. So I did a lot of research on England and Will Shakespeare, and the things you learn in history, and all that is, you know, a lot of it is in the book. And so also with writer's block, if you ever started a plot and you kind of peter out and then you don't know where to go, read about that subject, read the history of it, read other books that are on the same subject, because that will inspire you. And all of a sudden you'll get all these ideas in your head and you won't even know what to do with them. So I don't think there's any really writer's block exists. It's just a lack of information. And you can fill your mind with it by reading history and reading about your subject. So let's see. I'll show you one more video here. This is Wicked Will. Okay, so now as we get to the end of this, happy ending. Usually when you plot out a novel, and you probably work this way where you do the plot points and then you have an idea of the ending in mind. But sometimes when you start writing it, you find you're going in different directions. You might take a road somewhere else, and then you find that ending that you thought was going to be there, it shouldn't be there. It should be something else. And that's fine. I mean, you might change the whole scope of what you're writing and have a different ending than you first thought. In this book, I mean, I usually know what my endings are. In this book, Marie O'Day, it's a very strange book. It kind of took me where it needed to go, and I wasn't even sure where it was going to go. But it's kind of a ghost story too, but not really a ghost, more like could be someone's imagination in someone's mind. But this young man is haunted by this woman called Marie O'Day. And actually, it was something I saw on TV that sparked my imagination about this book. There's a show, American Pickers, where these two fellows go to different like old barns and whatever and find stuff they can sell at their antique store. And one of the items that they found in this huge barn was a whole carnival full of posters and things carnival related, and this coffin with a woman's body inside of it, a skeleton. And the young man that had shown them inside told them the story of it, that this was a carnival attraction and freak show down in the 50s when people could, pay money to go and see this poor dead body. And it was kind of a skeleton, and no one knew who she was, but they called her Marie O'Day. So they didn't buy her coffin, but they left and went about their business. But to me, it was like, that poor woman. I mean, she deserves a respectful burial, at least, not stuck in the corner of some old barn. So I put together this story about what if they did by her and bring her, and with the intention of burying her. And what if this young man suddenly became obsessed with her, finding out who killed her because they knew she was murdered. And she appears to him, but he can't really see her. And she doesn't want a burial. She wants to find out who killed her. And that sets him on a quest to find out who killed her. Now, when I got to the end of the book, it wasn't just who done it. It was a lot more than that. And I couldn't figure out one ending. I didn't want one ending. So there's 3 endings to this book. So one is kind of justice prevails, and one is a little bit happier ending, and the other is kind of tragic. So the reader can choose what ending they would like. So, for your books, it could be the same way. You have to go where the story takes you. And sometimes if you're writing a book and this, it takes you in some very strange ways, but you have to follow it, because if your characters are good and strong, they lead you where they want to go sometimes. Okay, so not only have I been writing novels, I've written a lot of children's books. These are some of them. And this is on my dogs, like my little puppies here. And your dogs are anything in a story, even your dogs. So you can make your dogs characters in a children's book, or as this one is, this book, My Brother Charlie, told by his sister Faith. So I had a lot of fun with that book and using pictures of my 2 dogs and nest them as puppies. This is a book that I had a series of Christmas books, again, using a dragon, because I love dragons. So I created Random Horse Publishing to, promote my books, because, going through agents or trying to do that, and maybe you found this out yourself, is really, a very difficult thing to do. Even if you've been published, even if you have, an extensive writing background like I do, and, I've written for television and, newspapers and things like that. But still, it's like playing the lottery to me, trying to get someone interested, trying to get someone to see your work. So I decided, I just couldn't deal with that anymore. And I created my own little website, and this Random Horse Publishing, where all my books are. And on the website, all the covers of the books there, and then there's a link to Amazon where the books are sold. So if you're self-publishing, I'm assuming that's the way you have set up your books, that your books are on Amazon and you know how to go about self-publishing on Kindle. I don't know if anybody wants any, headers up front thing about that, how to go about doing that. The good thing is that it's free to do all that, and you're on the Amazon website. But the bad thing is about self-publishing is that you're in the jungle of self-published books. And how do they find your book? How do readers find your book? That's the challenge for anyone that's self-publishing or really publishing, because these days even publishers want an author to have some kind of imprint, an email list or followers or something. You have to do your own self-promotion these days, even if mainstream publishers picked up your book. But for self-published, it's kind of on your own. You have to figure out ways to promote your books and not have it cost you a fortune, because buying advertising can be very costly. Promoting your book or going to book fairs and things like that, you have to pay for everything, as you probably know. I'm fortunate that I'm also an artist, so I don't have to pay anyone to do my covers and the artwork, because that would be another expense. I can do it all my own. So this is my logo for my website. Magic ain't for wimps, but also writing ain't for wimps, because it takes a lot of work to write your novel. It takes a lot of work to promote your novel, and it can take a lot of money if you're going that route, and you may not get that money back in royalties or sales. So you have to be prepared to lose that money if. But hey, it's your book. your investment, and that's up to you, you know, how far you want to go in that regard. I've also still writing for the stage. I've written a lot of plays. Some of them have been produced, and these are 2 musicals that I wrote the lyrics in the book. And this one, Rockin' Rockets, over here is kind of my, oops, what did I do here? This one, we're negotiating right now to do it Moore Park College soon. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but I hope so. It's kind of Grease in outer space, but it has some really fabulous music in it, if I do say so when I say so. So I guess that's it for now. If you have any questions, be happy to answer them. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Lorraine.
Yeah, Angela, I just want to say you gave us a lot of great ideas.
Oh, great.
Like I never thought of using a video actually to promote books. But if you can do, you know, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. If you can get a couple minutes of a video, a lot of times people get stimulated by something they haven't seen before.
Visual. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great idea.
Yes.
I also like your idea of using history as, you know, as a prompter, if you will, and of having the story pivot. Because if you don't, you know, if you don't have a pivot point, you don't have a story.
Right.
So that was really useful. And also with history, there's things that happen in history that really happened that you couldn't make up.
That's right.
You're creating something that's from a true source, but it goes in a different direction than maybe what would be expected.
Absolutely.
That's always of interest.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can always use that history, even if you're writing something contemporary, you know, maybe it parallels something in your book. Like a murder happened in the past that the detective in the present is investigating, and it parallels it. And you can bring in the history of that place, and like Los Angeles, let's say. And that's really interesting for the reader too. And it gives it a lot of meat to work with as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
One of the crazy things that happened, not crazy things, in Simi Valley, where I live, I was the writer of the Ghost Tour. It ran for 20 years at Halloween, 3 weekends before Halloween, and it was a wonderful family event. It was in this park called Strathern Park. And the park is unusual because what they did is they brought in like historical buildings that had been around Simi Valley in the pioneer days. And instead of, you know, tearing them down, they brought them to the park, like a cute little small barbershop, a little old general store, even the first church, this little clapboard church they brought to this park. So we use those stations around the park for our ghosts. And there were 13 stations, and at each station there was a ghost or 2 ghosts in a scene. And the people, our guests, would be on a tour with a tour guide and go to each station. So there were groups about 30 people, you know, family, kids. It was just a really fun thing. But in doing research for that and coming up with, you know, these pioneers that were going to be the ghosts, then I found out there were so many weird things that happened in Simi Valley you wouldn't believe. I mean, this quiet little town. For one, I'll give you one example. This fellow called Krishna Venta. This was in the 1950s. He had a cult in Box Canyon, the same Box Canyon where Manson was. And maybe it's the water up there, I don't know. But he went around like in a kind of a Jesus robe with the long hair, and, you know, he spouting peace and love. And Fountain of the World was the name of his church. And he claimed that he was 200,000 years old and from the planet Nefertiti's, and he had no belly button. Okay. Well, what happened is, well, I guess he was communing a little bit too much with the wives of some of the male members. They got sincerely pissed off. And one night they went to his door with dynamite and they exploded it. They killed him and then
Oh,
that really happened. I mean, who knew? So he was one of our cows. So I mean, like you're saying, Scott, absolutely. There's so many crazy things in history, even the history of your own area that you wouldn't ever think could happen. And there it is in the history, and you can use all that.
So did you go to the newspaper archives? How did you find that?
Well, there was a book written about Simi Valley history, a really wonderful, detailed book that had a lot of the history in it. So that was my major source of these. And yes, I did go to the archives and the Historical Society. And because there were like 20 scenes that had to be written every year. So, you know, we switched out ghosts but it was a great show, and I really had fun writing it, and it was just really wonderful to see the joy and people making them laugh, or with their kids and having a great time at night in this kind of spooky Halloween atmosphere. So that was really fun, but that ended like 5 years ago. But yeah, it's 20-year run. I can't complain.
Wow. Have Angela, can our members ask you for advice?
Sure.
What's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can email me. I think it's randomhorse@earthlink.net.
Oh, okay.
And you can go to my website too if you want to check out all my books, just to look at them, whatever. And there's a emailer there that has that address. You can just click on that.
And what's your website address?
It's randomhorsepublishing.com.
Yeah, okay.
And that's another thing is writers, if you want to create a website for your book that would have a link to Amazon where your book is being sold, I assume, you can do that. That's where my books are all linked up like that, because I don't sell any of my books. I don't print my books. I mean, that's a good thing about Amazon. The prints, whatever, they print the books, they take the orders, they send it out. You don't have to do anything. I mean, you get the royalty. I mean, it's not all that much royalty, but hey, I figure they're doing all that work and you're on their website for free. And so it's worth it.
So how successful are you? If you
terribly successful. It comes and goes. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a best-selling author on the bestsellers list. I'm still working for that. The problem is, like I said, with self-publishing is that you are in the jungle. And because of that, people don't know about you. And if they don't know about you, they can't buy your books, or so that's what I'm trying to do right now is try to, generate interest or have people know that I'm out there. And, if they want to buy the books, fine. If not, fine, because to me, I do it because I love it. And if I never make a penny on it, I mean, c'est la vie. But this is what I do. I'm kind of driven to do it for some reason my entire life. But I am working on a new book here. And you kind of inspired me to write this. It's kind of based on what I've been talking about here in this presentation. It's nonfiction. It's called Word Soup, and an easy recipe to write a tasty novel. So it's just kind of giving writers, especially new writers, the basics of what they need. Someone who's always had that idea, they always wanted to write a novel. Just give them the basics of what is needed to write a novel, things like plot, character, little advice like that. And then little advice on if you want to self-publish, how you go about doing that, and some tips on marketing. And just an overall view, not heavy-handed like some of the how-to books that have all these big words in it and written by all these big literary professors. It's just a fun book and an easy to read book. So this is what I'm working on now, and it's been fun.
Wow. How long does it take you to write a book?
Because I'm so obsessed. I write every day as long as I can until I drop over. I just enjoy it. I enjoy doing the artwork. This cover took about a week to do because I was trying different things. But it can take, it just depends on the book, really. It can take a month. This one I've been working on now, I probably started about 6 weeks. It'll probably take me another 3 weeks to finish the first draft. And then I'll go back and, fix it up and correct typos and all that stuff.
Have you ever been contacted by an agent?
Yeah, in the early days, I had agents and, but mostly for writing when I was a member of the Writers Guild of America. That's a whole different style of writing, a whole different ball game than novel writing. But I was involved in that world for a while. But it doesn't always translate into novel writing because agents too have their categories that they sell in, the market they sell in. So yeah, I have had agents, but right now I don't, and it's like I'm not going to play that game anymore. If someone wants to find me, I'm here. If not, I don't care.
Angela, how do you find your videos on PowerPoint to create,
Right.
I mean, do you reference it by subject matter, or how do you do that?
There's on the PowerPoint program in the ribbon, there's an insert where you can go. It's this insert video, and it opens you to a window where it has all the videos that PowerPoint or Microsoft allows you to use. And there's, I don't know, hundreds in there. And
cool.
they're short, probably, less than a minute. And you can just choose which one you want, and you just insert it into the PowerPoint program. It's as easy as that. It's great. It really is.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So, like this cover, do you do it physically first, or is it just computer made?
No, I usually draw things, and then I put it into the computer. I'll scan it into the computer. And sometimes, things like this background is computer generated because it has to be very precise in checkers. So it's both. I use both, but everything is hand drawn.
Wow. Wow. So any more questions?
Okay, well, this is me. I wanted to show you this. This is me and James Caan. I was a bridesmaid in The Godfather. So that's me making goo goo eyes at James Caan.
Oh, that's a great shot.
Love it. Love it.
That's cool.
Thank you.
Will you answer any of the chat questions? I think there's some.
Oh, sure.
I think she has already.
If there's written questions, I don't see them, but if you see them, you can ask me.
The only one was about the videos. That's the only question I saw.
Okay.
And she answered. Yeah.
So, Angela, this is Nancy Brown, and I sent you a direct message.
Okay.
I am the membership chair, and because you're our speaker, you get a year's free membership. And then we send you a copy of our current, most recent anthology. So I have your address. We'll be sending that to you.
Okay.
And then we'd love to put you on our website.
Thank you.
Along with any other members who are viewing this presentation today, we really want you on there, and we need you to send your photo, your bio, and the link to any of your published books.
Okay.
So I've got your email, Angela, and I will send you how to do that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's great that, you have this group, you're all helping each other, and it's fun to talk to other writers and see what you're doing and how you're doing things. And we always learn something.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And I want to thank Sunshine for recording this because there was a lot of good information. I'm going to go back and look at it and, you know, grab some of the points that I might have missed.
Well, good. That's what I was hoping for.
We will send it out. I will send it out. After it goes up to YouTube. So I send the link. That's how I send it.
Okay, cool. Good.
Great.
Well, you're all doing the right things. I mean, you know, you're keeping at it, and then you're putting stuff out there, and it's like the lottery. Who knows what's going to happen? But if you don't put it out there, nothing's going to happen. So
Exactly.
right.
Well, thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Yes,
Brilliant.
Wonderful.
Brilliant. What can I say?
I got a question myself. It's not my question. Phil was saying that he had a question on the notes, or I didn't see a question. So Phil, why don't you ask your question? Are you there, Phil? Well, I guess it's gone.
Okay.
He
Gone with the
was
wind.
here a second ago.
Hello, Sunshine. May I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Right
This
ahead.
is Daya, and I really am very thankful that it was such a very useful information for me because I'm pretty amateur about doing things. And I'm wondering Angela, when you mentioned about the PowerPoint and then using the PowerPoint, when we use the PowerPoint for video, etc., or for our books, is it not copyrighted?
No, these videos that are inserted are you're allowed to use because you bought the PowerPoint program, and Microsoft allows you to use, and also photographs that you can insert into your PowerPoint. And there's music too. You can also get music. But so yeah.
Thank you.
So is it an annual subscription, or do you just pay for it once?
No, you buy the PowerPoint program. I don't know how much it is now. It's probably like $100 or something like that. And then that's it. That's all. You own it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
In the old days, you could just buy PowerPoint and you had it for life. Nowadays, if you buy Microsoft 365, it comes with PowerPoint, but that is something you pay for yearly.
Oh, okay. They're doing it that way now. Okay. Well, this program I have is older, so maybe they've changed that, and you have to pay for it annually.
Yeah, things are going that way.
Oh, okay. But still, you know, I think it's worth it if you know, if you get those videos. I mean, you're not going to go out and make all these videos yourself. So it's right there for your use in the photographs. And, you know, also, you know, you can use them for your book covers, those photographs. You can, you know, the writing, you can have different things like the Streaming Out Loud title. You know, you can use that on your cover of your book. So you can create your own artwork that way.
I had no idea. I thought everything is copyrighted. Thank you.
No, it's not. No, luckily it's not.
That's good information.
Angela, I have a question.
Yes.
You didn't talk about memoirs, but I have a question about one, and I don't know if you can help me out. I am writing my memoir, and when do I know that I'm done?
You're never done.
After you're dead.
You're never done.
26 vignettes, and my memoir is called Full Circle, The Journey of a Wandering Soul, and I'm not dead yet, so it's not over.
You're going to have to come back after you die.
You know, at what point do I know that I'm done and ready to publish this?
Well, you might look for some vignette that you've written about that you can make full circle. Like some.
I have. They're all, each one of them are.
Oh, okay. So, you know, if one is like in your earlier life and one happened in your later life, but somehow they're related, and that's taught you a lesson, or you're looking at a same event in the same from the past differently now that you're older, you know, that might be your ending. I've learned, you know, I'm not going to do that again, or something like that might be an ending for your book.
Great,
You can
thank you.
You can always do a memoir and then have it in parents part 1, whether you get to
That's
a
right.
2,
That's
3,
right.
or 4, doesn't matter. You'll have part of it in there, at least as far as you've gotten done. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, what I've done is I did a memoir, but it was through 2017, and then I did Sunshine Stories, and then I did Sunshine Stories 2, and there will be a Sunshine Stories 3. I mean, these stories just keep happening in my life. I don't know why.
Well, that's wonderful. A lot to write about. But you do probably want a definitive ending to this one memoir. So, you know, and then you start your next one, the next chapter of your life.
great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You could do one like Lauren Bacall wrote. She did the Bogey and Bacall and then the other years. You know, that kind of thing.
And nobody read that one. Who cares?
After Bogey. Yeah.
Right.
Unless you have any more questions, so you know, you can email me. You're welcome to do that, and or call me, and you know, I'd be happy to help you with anything I can.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank
That was
you
good.
very much. Thank
It
you.
was
You're very welcome.
very enlightening.
Oh,
Thank
that's good to
you.
hear. Thank
Very
you.
much.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye
Bye-bye.
now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again.
My pleasure.